I love her as a character. I I keep wishing in this political climate she would get another chance on stage. You know, I wrote that book. There's a line just for people who aren't aware. Um, Two things Qui did that she's known for, other than her smoke out clinic. um, she made sure that every child saw the ocean. You know, she rented a school bus and took all these kids. And that is a truth in the area I'm from. I was talking to somebody about this the other day. Children growing up an hour from the coast who have never seen the ocean, and it remains a truth. So I gave Kui that heroic act of every fall taking a big school bus full of children to see the ocean. Um, and then the other thing she did was prior to Roe v. Wade, she had a childhood friend who was a doctor, and in her kitchen, she was assisting. And so she had the reputation among kids of a person who would give information, give assistance. And there's a line, in fact, you know, where she's, and I did you know, a lot of reading and research at the time, the various herbs and things people used. And you know, she has this line where she yells out to this young boy who's been there and has come to pay her and say thank you. And she says, you know, if Cleopatra knew about birth control, certainly you kids in the 1970s should. So it's happening in the 70s. And so I just have thought of Qui so often, because that book was written at a time when I'm thinking of that as the dark ages, you know, and where people had been and coming forward. So for me, Qui was a total hero of sorts, and she did not really let people know the kinder parts of her that most definitely are there. You know, she sort of relished having a bad reputation or letting people think whatever whatever they thought of her. So she was a lot of fun to write. It's always a great way to cast a different light on your main characters also, you know, by way of dialogue, or if you shift the point of view, um, we see things from a different angle, or from something on the outside. Oftentimes those characters can provide much needed comic relief along the way. Like in which in Ferris Beach, for instance, I have a character who is the stepmother, not of the main character, but of the friend. And this woman just is like Miss Malaprop, you know. So I have her misusing all these things, and I had great fun. You know, she's like very excited and announces to everyone she's having her yard sodomized, and things like that. You know, so I had just collected a whole list of these misused words. Oh, I got invited to, but I just had to recline. You know, things like that. So I had so much fun with her.
What about within Carolina Moon? Was there a supporting cast player that you enjoyed most?
Um, I'm thinking oh, well, in Carolina Moon, it's Denny. It's it's my character who is tape recording herself all along the way. You know, she's left her marriage, and she's going to be the therapist, even though she's never been a therapist. And so she has this whole shtick she's doing off to the side. Um, I mean, I love to write what I call rants. Um, when Lee and I had did that show with the singer songwriters, Marshall Chapman and Matresa Berg, um, we all had fun with various rants along the way. And one of mine was Denny, because she has this whole thing about talking about when she dies, what she wants everybody to do, and that ended up being part of the show. My long break there, I was still writing a lot of stories and essays, and I also had 2 young kids, and I just found the shorter form much more manageable. I Carolina Moon was written, and then I had that long stretch until Life After Life. But I had the idea for Life After Life in place. Um, my dad died way too young. He was only 64, the age I am now. And so Carolina Moon grew out of my own talking to him in my head. And then there was just a lapse of change, a lot going on in life, teaching full-time, kids, my mom sort of coming through all these transitions. So I was always storing notes about Life After Life and where I wanted to go with it. Um, but I wasn't quite sure, how to put it all together. And so it took a while. It was exciting. But it was it felt fragmented in a way. I mean, there were so many different character ideas that I had, and I wasn't sure. I hadn't, Carolina Moon had a pretty large cast of characters, but this felt even bigger, and I wasn't sure how to glue it all together. And I have the central character, Joanna, who has worked as a hospice worker. And when I decided to use her notebook of the various people who have died during the process, and they're not the main characters of the book at all, but you get these portraits of people at the end of life. And I just, for me, that was the glue I needed to hold it all together. Um, I I have what I think is the ideal death in that novel, because I have the 3rd grade teacher. I love 3rd grade teachers. I have so many of them. But she has lived this long life, not without griefs. Certainly she's had it, but she's well respected. She's content. And then I have the unfortunate death, the unexpected, the vicious, the violent. And it was important to me to juxtapose those two. And then a lot of my readers were very upset with me that I did not deliver justice at the end of Life After Life. And I thought I made the more realistic choice, because unfortunately, there are many people whose murders are not solved, and many people who live on the fringe of society who do disappear. So that was my goal. But readers were upset enough that when I wrote Hieroglyphics, I needed to give one of my characters a job, and I made her a court stenographer. So in the background, for people who read Life After Life, the trial happens and justice is served. So that was a lot of fun. Hieroglyphics also is, it's a novel about what does not get said, what does not get translated. Now, if I had told somebody Oh, what's your novel about? It's a novel about what never gets said or told or known. But it is. It's about um, how we as individuals have all this information, knowledge, memories, um, and if we don't pass it on, these little bits of ourselves are as cryptic as finding some ancient stone with a symbol on it and we don't know what it means. And so I was thinking a lot about just all the ways we communicate and the little notes we take during the day. And that novel was greatly inspired by, in the backdrop, the two catastrophic events, a train wreck in my native county back in the 40s, only a year apart from the Coconut Grove fire in Boston. And in both of these cases, errors of man, and then people lost, and how were they identified? But again, by those most intimate objects, the shoe that had been on the foot, the dry cleaning tag, the token in the pocket, what's in the wedding ring. And so I was just, very kind of moved by those real life lists, and then focused on an elderly couple, who are at the end of life. I knew where Frank was going to be at the end. I knew there would be a scene between Frank and the child. Um, but I wasn't entirely sure. Shelley, I knew, was just like running, it's like her past is nipping at her heels. I mean, she just is refusing to look back and deal with things. So they're all having to deal with things. And then the kid Harvey, all of life is in front of him, but he still has this loss because, he doesn't know if his dad's ever coming back, or or who he thinks of as his dad. And I just had a lot of fun with Harvey as a character because this is, for people who don't know, a kid um, who has a fake mustache collection and knows way too much about murders of sorts. I used this all through my Zoom book tour. I had all kinds of mustaches. But I think the world can be split by those who outgrew fifth grade humor and those of us who did not. And so Harvey let me indulge all those bad jokes and things that children shouldn't know, but usually do.